Good morning.
Good morning.
A warm welcome to everyone this cold winter morning. I am Gary Gray. I'm one of the liturgists here at Eliot Chapel. We are very glad that you're with us today, whether you're here in the sanctuary or viewing online. I don't see you out there, but I know you're out there. Eliot Chapel is a liberal religious congregation of spiritual seekers that aspire to grow a community of joyous and radical belonging. I'll tell you, I not only forgot to put it on when I came in, you just saw what else I forgot. I'll say again, Eliot Chapel is a liberal religious congregation of spiritual seekers that aspire to grow a community of joyous and radical belonging, engaged in courageous dialogue. If you're visiting us for the first time today, we're very glad you're here. I hope this service speaks to you and that you are warmly welcomed. You should have received a guest form as you came in. Please fill that out, both sides if you have children. That will allow us to contact you and to begin our relationship. If you're visiting us online, please let us know that you're here and send us an email at welcome.eliotchapel.org so that we can personally welcome you. We will have a social hour this morning and many Sundays. Here at Eliot, you can go to Adams Hall out to this way, or you can find a cozy corner here in the sanctuary to have a conversation. If you're visiting online, we do have an online coffee hour, and if you sign up for our weekly communication, you'll get a link so that you can access that at 12:30 today. We want you to know about a new feature that our music director, Adam Cosberg, has set up. If you're online, there is an insert titled This Week's Music that gives you insight into the music selection and the lyrics for the anthem. If you're here in the sanctuary, you can also access on the bulletin board back in the vestibule or on the bulletin board down by the music room. Again, welcome to Eliot Chapel. As we light our chalice, our opening words are from Scott Taylor. May the light we now kindle and the time we now share anchor us to that inner flame, that sacred center which helps us to remember who we were before the world told us who it wanted us to be. May our time together clear the way for those memories and voices and friends that lead us back home. Our opening hymn is number 6 in your gray hymnal. Please stand as you're willing and able. The hymn is Just as Long as We Have Breath.
Yes,
Please join me as we say our congregational covenant together. The words are in your order of service. As a free congregation, we promise to one another our mutual trust and support. To create beloved community, we promise to be kinder to each other than we have to be. To listen fully to each other with an open mind and heart. To speak responsibly and respectfully. To find ways to improve our church for all members and friends.
It's time for our Time for All Ages. I'm really happy once again to have Scott Stewart joining us, Director of Religious Education. What are we talking about today, Scott?
Well, we're talking about a Unitarian Universalist youth in 2006. So wind the clock back a little ways. Her name's Annie Arnzen, and we're talking about her experiences in Botswana and UU values on a global level. Over the years, I heard many stories from my dad about his time in Africa while in the Peace Corps. When I learned that he was going to Botswana on business, I asked to go along. I was eager for an adventure, to attempt to make a difference, and to find my own stories in this place, which felt a world away.
Well, I told Annie that I would take her to Botswana on two conditions. One, she had to find some meaningful work to do while we were there. And two, she had to earn the money to pay for half of the ticket. With those words, I could already see her wildest dreams begin as she started earning money by babysitting, pet sitting, and shoveling snow for our neighbors.
I got my heart set on working in an orphanage. When I learned that Botswana had the second worst rate of AIDS in the world, all I could think was there must be thousands of children whose parents cannot take care of them because of this terrible disease.
However, finding an orphanage in such a small country, so far away that would allow a 13-year-old girl from the United States to volunteer doesn't sound easy, and it was even harder than it sounded. It was 5 days before our trip to Botswana that we finally got a call saying that the SOS Children's Village would be happy to have Annie. So a few days later, we pulled in through the front gate of the SOS Children's Village, and it felt like we were entering another world.
I was expecting something that looked like the orphanage in the movie Annie, but I was greeted by something very different. I was startled by a cluster of 15 houses painted in neon shades of purple, pink, blue, green, and brown. In each house, they build a family of about 10 children, including a mama and an auntie to look after them. The purpose of SOS is to build families for children whose parents cannot take care of them and educate them so they can flourish on their own in the future.
After Derek James, the director, gave us a tour of the orphanage, the principal of the kindergarten said to Annie, "Come with me." I gave her a look of encouragement as she walked away.
We stopped in front of a small building which stood just before the kindergarten. "This is where you will work with the babies," the principal told me, and then turned and walked away. I stood and looked at the door for a few minutes. Then I took a deep breath and walked in. I was greeted by 10 little faces, the color of ebony, all between the ages of 1 and 3. A woman walked over and greeted me. She introduced herself as Mama Florence, and those were the only words of English that I would hear from her all week, while I played and worked with those 10 children.
When we arrived home, Annie was full of new stories, experiences, and friends. She was so excited to receive a letter from Derek James 6 months later, which said SOS was trying to build another orphanage because there were still so many children who needed a safe place to live and learn. Derek said an orphanage costs a lot of money and that they were still $300,000 short. She was writing to see if there was anything that Annie could do to help here in the United States.
This was my chance to make a difference for those kids who had made such an impact on me. My family and I started a project called A Precious Cause to raise money for SOS. I have been speaking at churches and schools and selling jewelry to reach the ultimate goal of $300,000 for a new orphanage in Botswana. I have been moved by the outpouring of support from people who did not know about SOS before hearing my story. My hope is that as more people learn how the disease of AIDS is hurting the children of the world, that they too will be moved to make a difference.
I'm really glad for us to share a story of a Unitarian Universalist who found her own center. We know that part of what it means to find a center, your core of what you believe and want to do in life, comes from deep reflection inside, but also it comes from expanding the way you understand your relationship with all people in the world, with the planet itself. And so that's an important way that we Unitarian Universalists understand ourselves, is by ever expanding how we think we're in relationship with everything that is, all people, the planet. So we thought it would be nice to have something for us to remember that as we think about our own center and what we're called to do in life. And so we have here a little globe that many of you probably got as you came in. There are enough for anyone who wants one to take with you to grab and take it through your week and remind yourself of the ways that you are expanding your understanding of what it means to find your purpose and to be connected. So thanks for sharing this story. Thank you, Scott. And we look forward to hearing about religious education at the end of the service. Let's sing our religious educators, our children out with From You I Receive. I invite you to a few moments with me of a different kind of centering, a time for us to be a little more contemplative and thoughtful about how our life is going, what is important to us on this day, in this moment. In preparation for that, I invite you to find a way to be in your seat that feels grounded and balanced so that you're not distracted and can, for a few moments, turn your attention inward. Perhaps doing that by being aware of your breathing. If you're comfortable doing so, closing your eyes and letting the feel of breath entering your body through your nose, through the chest, and into the very center of your being. Wherever you feel that most, to let it call you to this time and place more fully. From this centered place, or wherever you are, may we together offer a prayer which may be understood as opening ourselves to what is most true. On this day, we pray, may we let the center hold, the center that holds our being most powerfully, that reminds us who we are, the center that is something that holds our faith together. The strength of the center is what allows us to stretch farther into the future, into the unknown, the untried, the uncertain, even the unnerving, all the places where growth happens. Let the center be strong, and let the center of this living tradition move with the times. Let the center of our tradition lead the times. May the strength of the center strengthen us as we seek, as we embody compassion, work for equity, demand justice for all. Let our center hold, strong as an old oak tree, flexible as the willow tree, life-giving as an orange tree, evergreen as a pine tree, as beautiful as the almond tree in blossom. We also turn to the prayers that we hold within ourselves. I invite you, if you would like, to speak the names of those that you are holding in good thought and prayer this morning now. I'll give us just a moment of quiet before our meditative hymn, but as we move into that, may we hold a moment of silence for member of the congregation Jim Reed, who died on January 18th. For those who know and love him and were connected to him, may we call up some special memory and think of those that are missing him on this morning. May we be together in a time of sacred quiet. From this place of quiet, may our center feel strong and resilient and deeply connected within and to all in the world, especially those whom we love. We hope and pray this in the name of love. Amen, and blessed be. Let's end this time remaining seated with a different kind of prayer, number 1031, a loving kindness prayer. So this prayer, which is offered by people all over the world, invites us to begin with a wish for ourselves, for deep and loving things, and then moves to imagining those around us, and then finally to we, all beings, and wishing them loving kindness and wholeness. May we go through that prayer together.
There are three simple changes I tell all arthritis patients to make. Number one, you have to start drinking water.
certainly as a continuation of that idea. On this fifth Sunday, we are taking a special collection to go to the Unitarian Universalist Disaster Relief Fund. We are aware that over the past weeks, there have been great swaths of California and actually other places out west that have had incredible storms. Many areas are underwater, deeply damaged, flooded streets, businesses, homes. We are holding all of those that are impacted in love and prayer. We know that among other congregations, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Monterey Peninsula, for instance, sustained quite a bit of structural damage to their church that they are in the midst of repairing. With the UUA Disaster Relief Fund, we go to the staff members that are in that region, and they reach out locally to utilize that money in the ways that it best would help the folks in that area. So as we receive our offering today, half of that will go to the UUA Disaster Relief Fund to help those in California and beyond on the West Coast as we are able. So may we find a place of connection and generosity as our offering is given and received in love and abundance. As our greeters come forward with the offering, may we offer our own blessing for the good work of what we have shared. The words are printed, the dedication of gifts in your order of service. As together we say, to the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these are offerings. Thanks to you all for your generosity.
Our reading this morning is Set in Stone by Victoria Safford. Ms. Safford writes, in a cemetery once, an old one in New England, I found a strangely soothing epitaph. The name of the deceased and her dates had been scoured away by wind and rain, but there was a carving of a tree with roots and branches, a classic 19th century motif, and among them the words, she attended well and faithfully to a few worthy things. At first, excuse me. At first, this seemed to me a little meager, a little stingy on the part of her survivors. But I wrote it down and I have thought about it since, and now I can't imagine a more proud or satisfying legacy. She attended well and faithfully to a few worthy things. Every day I stand in danger of being struck by lightning and having the obituary in the local paper say, for all the world to see, she attended frantically and ineffectually to a great many unimportant and meaningless details. How do you want your obituary to read? He got all the dishes washed and dried before playing with the children in the evening. She balanced her checkbook with meticulous precision and never missed a day of work, missed a lot of sunsets, missed a lot of love, missed a lot of risk, missed a lot, but her money was in order. She answered all her calls, all her emails, all her voicemails, but along the way she forgot to answer the call to service and compassion and forgiveness, first and foremost to herself. He gave and forgave sparingly, without radical intention, without passion or conviction. She could not or would not hear the calling of her heart. How will it read? How does it read? If you had to name a few worthy things to which you attend well and faithfully, what, I wonder, would they be?
Thank you, Adam, David, choir. Lovely and thoughtful lead-in for our reflection today. William Stafford wrote in his poem, The Way It Is, "There's a thread you follow. It goes among the things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you are pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it is hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread." I found in all of my ministry, but I really notice it very meaningfully as I've been in interim, perhaps all of this conversation about the importance of change and transition, that folks have told me that in their own changes, whether it is a new birth, the death of a loved one, a new job, changes in their health or the health of someone they care for, changes in relationship status, that folks find themselves feeling a sort of parallel with the process of thinking about the changes in the congregation. Not that they're really exactly the same sort of journey, but that they both are transitions that touch on very old and powerful themes. And they wonder how to figure out, in both instances, what is next, and if there is some sort of parallel between what the church needs to do to move forward and what I need to do in my life to move forward. And they discover that there are some parallels, that you start where you are as honestly as you can, including looking at your resources and realizing that one of the most essential, as William Stafford identifies, is that thread of purpose. Parker Palmer wrote an entire book about exploring it, and he began with Stafford's writings, and he concludes, holding on doesn't make life any easier, but it keeps us from getting lost in the dark woods that swallow us up every now and then. Knowing we can find our way home with that thread in hand, we more likely explore the darkness and learn what it has to teach us. Throughout human existence, there has been an observed truth that human experiences and human creatures gain a sense of empowerment, direction, and hope by discovering and reconnecting with a sense of purpose or meaning, especially in those times that are very, sometimes incredibly hard. Perhaps the most famous example of that in more contemporary history comes from the life and the writing of Viktor Frankl and his book, Man's Search for Meaning, in which he begins by exploring his own experiences in the concentration camps during the Second World War. And he observed that the inmates most likely to survive were those that felt they had some sort of goal or purpose that they were hanging on to in the midst of that horrifying time in history. Frankl himself spent a lot of time trying to reconstruct a manuscript that he had lost on his journey to the camp, what he came to think of as his life's work. And others held on to their vision of their future, seeing their loved ones again, or completing a significant task once free, and in the many ways that we find, live into, embody hope, and find our sense of purpose. That experience has helped us over and over again to know how not only to move forward, but even in some way to experience growth or deeper understanding, or a way that helps us be more complete as human beings even in hard times. And another way that you might understand that process of finding what that thread of purpose is the ways that we return again and again to how we understand our vocation in life, our calling. But it is in a very important and special way that that sense of calling or vocation is understood. Frederick Buechner writes that in this instance, one's vocation is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. Your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger. One of the essential things that every congregation, this congregation, does is to help you identify, clarify, and live into those few worthy things that you want to invest your life. Eliot might be understood as a seminary, the older sense of that word, the older meaning, seminary as a seed bed, a place where you explore and grow your sense of your own purpose, your own thread that holds you through life and that you hold it to carry you forward, that helps you understand why you are here on this planet. The Latin for vocation is vocare, which means to call, but this idea is not just from the standpoint of what you do for a living, but what you do with your life, and how deep ideals shape the quality, not just of your life, but of the lives of people around you. Marjorie Bankson, in her Call to the Soul book, suggests that it isn't so much a vocational choice, but a special way of understanding what we are here for. It is an invitation actually to wholeness, a spiritual prompting to complete the work of love that we each in our own way is here to do on this planet. And it means, most of all, that you discover and rediscover your distinctive, unique self. Parker Palmer explains that it is not a goal to be achieved, it is a gift to be received, this sense of what we are called to do in our lives. It is not discovering some meaning by scrambling towards a prize beyond our reach, but accepting the treasure that is already alive in you, that you already possess. It is not usually a voice from out there that calls you to something you are not. It is a voice deep in here that calls you to be the person you have been most deeply since birth. And sometimes we all lose track of those unifying and sustaining threads in our lives. I certainly lose it when I succumb to my fears, or I surrender too much influence of other people's expectations on me, or just in being caught up in the nonstop circus of distractions that the modern world surrounds and overwhelms us with. But what it looks like in a person's life, in my experience, is that as they make their way through a time of change, I think of a woman in a congregation a few years ago that when she went into retirement and stopped teaching after 35 years, she was very grateful to be in a new phase, but she felt strangely aimless and was thinking about what to do. And in the meantime, she decided to try something new, to be part of the grounds committee at the church. And as she began to do that work, she realized how her own gardening had been such an essential part of her life since she was a child. And over time, she found that because so many people would notice how good she was with the plants, they would ask her for advice. And so she found this new sense of meaning of offering folks who said that basically their skill in life was to kill every houseplant that they had, a way of understanding their own inner gardener. And she was surprised how it led her into deeper and deeper ways of helping people connect with the planet and with growing things. It may be the way that you're thinking about what love means to you now after a big change in your life. It may be how right now you are grieving something or someone you've lost, and you need to journey through a long forest to find your life again. However you are feeling that calling now, this place is in part to help you understand and live that more fully. And as vocation is to the individual, a powerful parallel in the community is how it connects with its purpose. What is for an individual a calling, when it is writ large in a community, becomes their sense of mission. And so part of the way that a congregation feels and lives into most powerfully its sense of what it is called to do in the world is by clarifying that thread of purpose that is called its mission. And part of what, for instance, the board has learned in thinking about their work with the congregation is that they are most of all accountable to the mission of this congregation in knowing whether they're doing the right work. And the thing is, so are all of we. The thing that really calls us to the true sense of why Eliot exists is how we are serving our mission to the world, however we understand it. And part of what the interim time is about is to help you be in conversation with each other, to understand more deeply why this place exists, why it has existed, and most importantly, now, looking at the world honestly, what is it calling us to do in the coming years? That is the place where congregations again and again find their real lifeblood, their real sense of energy, by reminding themselves of that thread of purpose. So in the coming months, both in February and then the very first Sunday on March 5th, in a variety of ways, I'll invite you to think about, in a deeper sense, what is the calling of this congregation? What has it been, and what have you learned from it? Who are you now, and who do you want to be? Who do you want to partner with? And most of all, what is the world calling each of us to do as part of this community? Scientist and writer Margaret Wheatley states this: "There is no power equal to a community discovering what it really cares about. It's always like this. Real change begins with the simple action of people engaging a conversation about what they really want for the world, and letting that conversation lead them forward into a new shared life." A big part of what I'm here to do with you is to help you think about your shared sense of calling, but also to help you understand that often by practicing and living into that, you will find out more about what your life is asking of you now. And all of it gives us a deeper sense of connection and purpose, and can, in some ways, powerful ways, save our lives. I look forward to our conversations and letting them lead us onward. Say, so may it be. Amen. And blessed be. I invite us to join in our closing hymn, number 1028. Rising in the ways that we do as we sing together the fire of commitment.
Here
prepare to leave this space, having found stillness, may we share peace. Having received connection, may we reach out to others. Having heard the call of our deepest self, may we live with greater alignment. Having returned, or at least gotten closer to our center, may we expand the circle of love. We extinguish this chalice, but we do not extinguish the power of that love, the wisdom that guides us, that is old and yet always new, the fire of our commitment to what matters most. Though we extinguish the light of this chalice, that remains until we gather again. I invite you to take a seat and receive our final gift of music in this. As we prepare to go forth from this place, thank you for joining us today. I invite you to take a moment to say hello to someone new to you before you leave, and may the rest of this day, may this week be blessed. See you soon.